Let me go ahead and start with 1 minute. This will be the agenda today. So first thing is we will check what are the challenges without automation and a cloud management platform. And then we will go with the introduction of vRealize automation and its component, and then the use cases and live demo. So we also have a lucky draw at the end. So you stand a chance to win a Google Home Mini. So the event winner will be announced via email. So please stay throughout this session. We'll publish the barcode where you can scan and fill in the survey form. All right, so let's dive into the topic. First thing is, we know like most of the customers or enterprises are looking forward to go to cloud or multi-cloud journey. So the customers are already on cloud along with their on-premise, or they're looking easy way to do that. So what are some driving factors of multi-cloud journey? So some of the use cases, imagine you have an on-premise data center and the hardware lease is expiring, or the hardware is outdated and you want to upgrade it. So you feel it's kind of little, high charge and you don't want to pay so much money for a new hardware procurement. Customers tend to look into the cloud options. And for customers who don't have a DR solution, if they want to, make use of cloud for DR, they also prefer, exploring the cloud options. And some of the common use cases, like if you want a backup of solution, so cloud is one best way to do that. Or your office is expanding and you want to open a new, center in a different country. Rather than going and setting up a new data center, procuring new hardware, following the local government policies, the cloud is a better option. So these are something which is driving customer to go to cloud, and not every customers are really ready to move 100% on cloud. So they want to have things on premise as well as cloud. So that's the multi-cloud journey for customers, and almost like I would say 90% of enterprise somewhere or the other, they have the cloud footprint already. So we discussed about the basic pointers, which is letting customer to go to the cloud approach, but there is one key factor, which is application. So you have an infrastructure, you have networking, storage, and compute, everything set up and ready. So you started creating virtual machines and you have a container base. What next? The next thing is application. So application is the driving fact for any IT to modernize or go to the cloud approach. The reason being, end of the day, the application is something which brings revenue to the organization. And the developers, right, they don't want to work now with an old 3-tier architecture. So they want a cloud platform which can enable them to do microservices and use all the advanced services available on cloud. So one cloud does not satisfy, a developer's need. Mostly they need something on premise as well. On one public cloud, they have some feature which is very interesting, but that cloud doesn't have another feature which is very good with a different cloud provider. So they kind of have multiple needs. So that is one other major driving factor, which is your application. So whenever we deal with this application modernization, right, there are a few terms like refactor, replatform. So what are these things? So when it comes to maintain, right, maintain is nothing but you maintain your existing application as is. I don't want to change anything on the application. That is the maintain. And when you want to replatform, so your application is running on an old architecture in your on-premise. You just buy a new server or something and just move it to a different hardware. So that is like just giving it a replatform. And hybrid apps. So imagine a typical 3-tier application, web, database, and application, right? So if you want to put part of it in cloud, so you want the web in the cloud and other two on premise. So there you go with the hybrid apps approach. With modern apps, what's happening is the existing applications are being refactored. When you say refactored, right? So it is rewritten. A part of the code, a part of the application is completely rebuilt for suiting the cloud, native cloud services. And the develop for cloud is where you develop a software which is completely on cloud native services. And the last one is replace. The replace part, what we do is we have an application running on premise, and you're no longer interested to maintain the application. You go for a SaaS approach where it's maintained by a cloud provider and you just consume the service. So here I would also like to talk about the vRealize automation journey. I've been working with vRealize automation from 5.x. So initially it was a little trouble for customers to get used to the installation or the upgrade procedure, because when you deploy a multi-tier vRealize automation in a high scale enterprise edition, right? So you kind of have, you know, 3 appliance running and multiple Windows IAS machine running. So it's kind of troublesome to maintain so many machines. So later, after 7.x version, VMware came up with just one appliance. How easy it is. So this appliance can do everything what 60 node VRA in 7.x version used to do. And not only that, this appliance, right, it runs on completely microservice architecture, containerized. Each and every service is containerized and managed by Kubernetes, and it runs on Photon OS, which is VMware. So you see the evolution of the application, right? From 16 different node for an enterprise setup to a single node, or you can scale it to 3 node architecture. So how simple it is made. Now, also the other kind of thing is vRealize automation. We also have a SaaS offering. So customer who don't want to manage even the simple part of vRealize, right, on premise, they can go for the SaaS offering. They can subscribe to that. So that's the way the application is evolving. So any enterprise will think about the same approach for their own applications, and that pushes them to move from on-premise to multi-cloud approach. So since we spoke about the driving factors to cloud, there will be challenges, obviously, because it's not something easy like, you know, you're running on premise today and tomorrow you want to run it on cloud. It's not that easy. There are a lot of challenges which comes around it. One of them is the visibility factor. So on premise, you have your full control. So you want to go to data center, unplug a cable, connect it to a different port, you can do that. But in cloud, you know, you don't have the complete rights. So you have the portal console, everything is UI, you manage to a certain level, and in the backend, what happens, you don't have a full control. And also when you're dealing with multi-cloud architecture, there are reasons, you know, you tend to over provision things. And you all very well know that cloud is tied to build. So you kind of build so many VMs. It's a self-service portal, developers log in, request for machines and all the other services. Do they really consume or not? We don't know. So we cannot have a full visibility, and end of the month, you get a huge bill. And security and compliance. So yeah, everyone talks about cloud, but when we talk about cloud comparing with on-premise, security is a major challenge. So there are ways to secure cloud, but still you don't have kind of security what you get on-premise. And performance inconsistency, which means you know, you run some application in on-premise with high-end servers and you see the output is really great, and when you try to move to cloud, you really don't know it matches the performance. So you need to try multiple cloud and you know, check where the workloads can be placed, on what server you can place it. So that's one more. And the provision and orchestration. This is something which is like, you know, heart of vRealize automation, the provisioning and orchestration part. So even though you have cloud and everything, you need a tool, a powerful cloud management tool, which can do a you know, provisioning of virtual machine orchestration and so many things. So that's when the vRealize automation comes into play. So it can talk to, you know, your VMware vCenter, your AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, and also VMC on AWS, vCloud Foundation. There's so many endpoints it can talk to. We will keep checking that when we go further, or also in the lab session. Okay, going to the next slide. All right, so this is the introduction of vRealize automation. Now then we know the challenges and we know the approach what customers are taking. What is vRealize automation? So vRealize automation is a modern infrastructure automation platform that enables self-service multi-cloud environment. So it's like a cloud portal. So people who have logged into AWS, Google, or Azure cloud portal, how do you see it? You see it as a self-service portal. You have list of services. You can click on one, request for other one. You can create a on-demand load balancer. You have Active Directory, so many things. So with VRA on-premise, you can achieve the same kind of console experience what you have on cloud. Not only that, using vRealize automation, you can increase agility, productivity, and efficiency. And also it's a DevOps ready automation platform. So we will look into this in detail in following slides. Now, before moving to the next slide, one more thing what I want to tell is vRealize automation is one product part of a vRealize suite, which means there are like multiple products in that. If we need to talk about vRealize operation, vRealize log insight, and we have lifecycle manager, and also the network insight, which takes care of network monitoring, everything. But we cannot complete the entire thing in one stretch, and that will cause more confusion between different products. So we'll just restrict ourselves to vRealize automation. But if we sign up for vRealize suite of products, right, any IT operations can be done with vRealize suite. So you can explore more on that. Now, this cloud management platform, vRealize automation, is a purpose-built solution, which means it has a purpose. When customers sign up for that, you get an access to so many automation stuff, and it can manage all your hyperscaler cloud. And you have a edge location you want to manage that, you can. And if you have a BCPP partner managed vCenter, you can manage that as well. So not only managing it, now it's so matured with AWS and Azure that you can also use their native service like S3 and other stuffs to build your own solution. So vRealize automation, the main components. Now we will be discussing about the main components of vRealize automation. Few are cloud assembly. I'll be taking in lab right now. You can just think about this as the components, like when you install your MS Office suite, you get Excel and other stuff, right? So these are like 4 different part of vRealize automation. One is like cloud assembly, the service broker, code stream, and vRealize orchestrator. And the other slides, we will be jumping a little deep into each one of it. And 2 other components we definitely need to talk about when we talk about vRealize automation. That is your workspace one access, which is nothing but your identity source. If you want to integrate your on-premise identity and provide access to user, we can use that. And vRealize Lifecycle Manager. This is a tool which takes care of your complete lifecycle of vRealize suite of products. So from version 8.x, you cannot install vRealize automation standalone without vRealize Manager or vRealize Lifecycle Manager. So when you install vRealize automation, it has to go through vRealize Lifecycle Manager. It then deploys Identity Manager, and then it deploys vRealize automation. And the installation is pretty straightforward. It's like made very simple. Now, what is cloud assembly part of vRealize? So this is the place where, as a developer or a cloud admin or a VI admin, you create blueprints. So in vCenter, how we have templates. So we kind of build a master template and start provisioning VMs from that, right? In VRA, we have blueprints. So blueprint is a place where you create a logic behind what needs to be developed. So here it can be a simple IaaS machine, or it can be a platform as a service where you kind of provide a platform for a developer, or a multi-tier application also can be built as a blueprint. And even if you have embedded NSX with vRealize automation, you can create on-demand load balancer, you can NAT the networks, and these are something which a user who has cloud assembly access can do it. So it's a one-time task. You develop a blueprint once and it can be consumed by users multiple times. So these all will be looking into the lab. So for now, just let's finish the theory part. And apart from creating blueprints in Cloud Assembly, we also can, or this is the only place where you add endpoints. When we talk about endpoints, it can be your Google Cloud, it can be your Azure endpoints, and it can be your on-premise vCenter. These are endpoints which can be added to consume that. So when you add endpoints to vRealize, those are the place where your workload lands at the end. So those are something which we can do here. And we also have extensibility, which means you can make use of action based extensibility. That's something new in VRA 8.x, and vRealize orchestrator. These two things can extend your provisioning. So VRA is not just a provisioning tool. So people confuse telling it is just an automation tool where I can just provision a VM, but it's not just that. More than provisioning, it can automate any infrastructure task what you have. So say, for example, you want to create an AD user, you need to log into AD mission and open the ADSI edit and create a new user, right? That process can be one-time task in VRA, wherein you can create an XAS blueprint to create a user. So just run it from VRA and it'll do the everything for a user to create everything for an admin to create a user. Similarly, you want to build a database. So you can just create an XAS blueprint, tagging it to the database. It will go create a database for you. So VRA is kind of a tool where you expose an API as a third-party software. You just need to expose your public API to VRA, and VRA can take care of everything. It can automate everything on that. So there are like so many times customer ask me, can we integrate this? Can we integrate that? So it's pretty simple to answer to this customer. Do your third-party application have APIs exposed so that something else can be integrated? If yes, VRA can do everything on that. So that's how VRA is extensible. So in Cloud Assembly, we kind of take care of blueprint and your infrastructures, which is like adding your endpoints, creating your image profiles and image flavors. All these things can be done. And the next piece of vRealize is the service broker. So service broker is basically where the end user who actually consume these resources, right, they log in. So here there are two types of login. I'll show it to you in lab. One is like a pure end user login where they don't have access to anything. All they will see is when they log in, their catalog items published to them. They can request on the catalog item, and that will be provisioned to whichever endpoints it's in. So the other type of login is your admin login, where you can create lease on a VM. So if I provision a VM, right, if I need it to run only for 1 week, it's a training classroom virtual machine. So I just need it to run for 7 days, and then 7th day it should shut down. And after like 2 or 3 days of archival period, it should get deleted. We can set that kind of lease mechanism on VMs which are getting provisioned. And we also have approval policies, which means since it's a self-service portal, any user can log in and request for multiple machines. Even though they use or they don't use, they kind of keep requesting for virtual machines. So there should be an accountability, right? And there should be a way to streamline this. So when a user requests for a virtual machine, we have to set an approval policy in place. So as a user, if I request, it has to go to my manager for approval, and my manager sees that and he approves. That's when the VM get approved. Or he has an option to reject, telling there is no resource, or you already have a VM, try to use that. So you have a control on these stuff. So that's something which we can do it through service broker part of the vRealize automation. And also whatever blueprint you create in your this part, Cloud Assembly, in the service broker, you will be able to import that and consume. So we'll be seeing this in lab as well. And next thing is CodeStream. So if we have DevOps folks on this call, they would enjoy this. So CodeStream is basically your CI/CD process where you can create a pipeline to manage your complete release cycle. So you have variety of endpoints to add from like GitHub, GitLab, and your Dockers, your VRO, your ABX. So using all the endpoints, which are the DevOps tools, you can create a pipeline where you can manage, test, build, run, release. So the complete life cycle of and DevOps can be done through CodeStream. So this is again a powerful tool. There are a lot of things involved in it. So if we need to talk about this, there is a separate session altogether, but we will just see this in lab demo. I don't have an pipeline blueprints created, but I'll just show you how it looks like. And also we can monitor the pipelines. We have dashboards and alert mechanisms and easy way to troubleshoot all the CI/CD process. The other piece of vRealize automation is VRO. This is a place where you can create your own workflow. So say you developed some application and you have exposed the APIs, you can add that application here and create your own workflows for VRA to make use of your applications. It's basically, say a customer says, I have an on-premise application. I'm interested in VRA, but I don't want to let the on-premise application go because that tool is something which I kind of use it for monitoring and other stuff. We can tell, yeah, no problem. So, you just give us the API and we'll add that particular application as a REST host in VRO, and we will build some workflows so that that also can be automated using VRA. So vRealize Orchestrator is the backbone of VRA. This is kind of an engine which, does so much extensibility for VRA. So by default, VMware gives you a lot of option out of box workflows and the integration plugins which we can use. So we will check this also in lab. Right. So now those are the four components of VI. The one is VRO, then CodeStream, Service Broker, and then Cloud Assembly. So now let's jump into what is the use cases. I've tried to reduce the slides as much as possible so that the session in lab can be more interesting. So we'll just check into the use cases. So the first use cases, as we discussed, it's a self-service hybrid cloud, management platform. We'll just split into three kind of approach. So you need to set up, deploy, and manage. So setup is nothing but where your administrators and your cloud admin can kind of come in and they give an infrastructure, they add the endpoints and they develop the blueprints and templates for you. And in the in the deployed mode of this, the end users and the developers, they request for the blueprints, which is already set up and consume that. And in the manage mode is where your admins and your monitoring folks will come into play. They kind of manage the resources and they try to increase if there is something which is running out of resource, and all the day-to operations on the workloads can be managed. So it's pretty straightforward. You have the VRA deployed, you build something, you publish that, and the users will use it, and later an admin will manage it. And multi-cloud automation. So as we know, it can talk to multi-cloud, right? So there is something called the very interesting part of VRA 8 is we have this cloud agnostic blueprint, which is you have one blueprint, and that blueprint can provision VM on any cloud. So it doesn't matter to it, like, I have to go to Azure, Google, or AWS. So usually we were building the different kind of blueprints, like for Azure blueprint, Google blueprint, and AWS. So now with the cloud agnostic blueprint, if your project has all the three clouds added as in cloud zone, right? So one blueprint will know like where I have to provision. So it kind of, picks the cloud, whatever it's entitled for. So one blueprint can talk to multiple cloud. That's one thing. And the other part is you have this cloud formation template, right? So in AWS, if you have infrastructure as a code kind of thing where it goes and builds an environment, we can make use of that also to build a complete environment on AWS. So that option is also available with VRE. So the next stuff is DevOps ready. So this is using the code stream part. So usually DevOps is mainly focused on the application development, testing, and delivery part, right? Here you can also make use of code stream for infrastructure pipelines. So if you want to build a blueprint or if you want to build a vSphere template, we can make use of code stream to do those things also. So this is, in sync with application developers. So the VI admins will not be
from your company.
okay. There was a disturbance. I think it's okay now. All right. So the infrastructure DevOps part, what we are seeing here, this is basically the code stream which I already explained. So we have something called infrastructure as a code, which means there were a few customer requesting telling everything in VRA is UI based. I need some development people to work on VRA so that they can kind of build blueprints using the codes what they use. So in VRA 8, we have an option where either a developer can use UI or he can also use a code approach to develop anything like policies, blueprints, everything is code based. We will check that also. I'll show it in the live demo. And last but not least, VRA can manage, the PKS and the vSphere 7, which is your Tanzu. So now, as you all know, starting with vSphere 7, the vSphere is enabled to run microservices architecture. It can, manage the containerized environment, everything, right? So to automate this, VRA can help you. You need not go and log into vSphere or your vCloud Foundation to build or manage Kubernetes cluster. You can leverage a vRealize automation to do these part as well. So this is pretty new, but it's very effective too. Yeah. All right, so that was the presentation. I just wanted to run through that so that we can jump into the live demo and see how the product is more interesting. What I've got here. Okay. So first thing is, let me log into vRealize automation. So this is an on-premise deployment. It is not a SaaS. So it's set up in our Net1 Asia data center. So let me log in. I'm the super admin, so I'll be having access to most of the things. Okay. So as soon as you log into VRA, right, you kind of get an option to choose the services where you want to go. So Cloud Assembly, which we discussed, Code Stream, Orchestrator, Service Broker. So it is in sync with my slides. So the one thing different which I did not discuss is VRA migration assessment. This is for customers who are running older version of VRA, and if they want to move to VRA 8, which is completely re-architectured, right? This tool will help them to provide some recommendations on what will be migrated, what cannot be migrated. So that is something here. And before we click onto these services, we have identity and access management. So here is where we kind of add users and give them permissions. So if you see, I have a user here and the permission is just a member. So this user will only be able to access the service broker, not everything. But right now the account which I logged in is NOA admin, and I have rights to everything. So I'm an organization owner. So if you want to assign any user permissions, you can do that here. And branding is if you want to customize. So this is the default thing which you get from VMware, right? And if you want to change it to match it to your environment, you can upload that image and then change the color, or do all those things. So let's go to the services part, and first let's go to Cloud Assembly. All right, so Cloud Assembly, because I'm a super user, I'm able to get this deployments tab to see how many deployments are available. So there are no deployments, which means we haven't started any deployments here. And this is the place where we create the blueprint. Right now, I already have a blueprint for Google, Azure VM, vSphere, and AWS. I kind of split this, and I created 4 different blueprints because I just wanted to emphasize on the point that VRA can talk to multiple clouds. I'll show a live demo by deploying the blueprints, and you'll be surprised to see how quick VRA builds the images on AWS, Azure, and Google, and also in the private vCenter. So how do we build a blueprint? Let's go click here, new blueprint, and I'll just give a name to the blueprint called VMUG, and I'll just choose a project. Project is nothing but it's a subtenant or a business group within your organization. So I'll just select this, create, and it will take you to a place where you can build the blueprints, and you have an UI option here in the extreme left, and the right side you have a code approach option. So now I want to build, say, a AWS instance, right? I just drag and drop this here, and you see the code is automatically getting filled. Now, if I want to select image and profile, so I just come here, click here, and you need to predefine this image portion. So I'll show you where we need to do this. So if I do this cloud agnostic blueprint, I click on this here. If I click this, it'll show me the predefined image, flavor. So these things has to be predefined to auto-populate. Let me just take you to a simple blueprint which I've already created. Before that, I just want to show one more thing. So if you see here, right, these are some of the native services from the AWS. So you can consume this as well. You need to add an AWS bucket. You can do that, and you need to use the DNS Route 53 service. You can do that. So that simple it is. So AWS is kind of fully matured because it's there from a long time. The other hyperscalers have recently come in, so you might not see more options. Like GCP, we have disk machine, but it is developing. You'll get a lot more options in near future. And Kubernetes also can be added here. For Azure, we have Azure. These are the things which we have for Azure right now. Azure is also like pretty mature. Now, apart from this, I just wanted to, yes, yeah. So we have configuration management softwares which can be integrated. So I had a use case where I was working with a deployment, and customer wanted VRA to provision VM, but they wanted to use, Ansible to do the configuration, like adding it to domain and all the other stuff. So you have out-of-box integration with Ansible and Puppet. So you can just drag and drop here, and you can select the runbook and cookbook, like what you want to execute once the virtual machine is provisioned. So those things can be done. So this is how you kind of build your, a blueprint. So it's not a rocket science. It's simple. People who have worked with NSX, if you need a load balancer or anything, just put this and fill in the detail of load balancer, like what network it has to do. So it is that simple. So it shows me error because I didn't do it correctly. So let me delete that. Now I'll open an existing. So this blueprint, Google VM, is a simple blueprint where it goes and deploys a virtual machine in Google Cloud. So I've chose the image and the flavor, what it has to be. And this feature here is very interesting. When you do a test of blueprint, right, it will let you know if your configuration is correct or not. So if it shows successful here, which means you have configured the blueprint correctly, and it will provision. And if you want to know the provision diagram, like how it looks like, So it'll give you a full flow chart. So this machine, it belongs to Asia, Southeast Asia 1, and it's an E2 instance. And this is my project name, and what is the instance which it matches. So it'll give you a complete thing from where to where it does it. So let me just go ahead and trigger some blueprints so that while it's happening, we can explore the other features in the UI. Now I've come to the other screen and I will log in as an end user. So for an end user, this is how the portal will look like, because I've restricted the user just to use the service broker. So when that user logs in, right, they will just get access to the published catalogs and what they have deployed. So that's we can do the restrictions using VIDM, the place where I showed you before. Now, quickly, I'll start requesting for VMs. So right now I'm doing an AWS VM request. I'll call it as VMUG. This is the deployment name. And okay, this feature here, what you see is, it'll estimate the cost of your virtual machine. Right now, it will not do for the public cloud, but for private cloud, like, vCenter, if you want to know the cost of the virtual machine approximate for a day or something, you have an option to check that. It's done through vRealize Operations Manager, a different product in vRealize. It takes care of the cost. Right now, one of the AWS machine is getting provisioned from VRA to AWS cloud. And let me request for Azure also. I'll just write a vmag Azure subnet. And let me do it for Google Cloud also. And our favorite vCenter. So let's do it on vCenter also. Okay, so right now I consumed all the three catalogs items. Each one will go to one of its own endpoints. So AWS will go to AWS, Azure, Google, and this is vCenter. Now, if we see, the Azure AWS machine is already built and it is running. So let's go and validate that if it is already there. I'm just logged into my AWS instance, refresh. You see here. So this VM, which is running here, was triggered from my VRA. So it is so quick. Even if you log into your AWS portal and start the, create a new virtual machine process, you need to fill in few things and then click on submit. But from VRA, because of the template which is already built, it immediately knows what to do and it builds and it runs the machine here. So you have the access. And so if you want to check more details, you just click on that and you will get the IP address to access the machine and everything. So we also have this notification mechanism in VRA, which means you can add an inbound and outbound email servers. So as soon as a virtual machine is requested and it's completed, the end user, whoever requested for the virtual machine, will get an email with all the details. So those things can be done. Now you also, VRA gives an option if you want to log into AWS, click here, you can do it. But the whole purpose is you don't want to manage multiple cloud. So you want to manage it from a single cloud management platform, right? So one time you build blueprints and start provisioning virtual machines, and you can manage everything from here. Even the day two operations, if you want to manage. If I go to AWS machine, I go here, these are some of the day two operations, what I can do on the machines. These can be customized. You can add your own day two operations as well. You can restrict a few of the day two operations. So you see, right, you don't need to really log into your public cloud. Now, I also deployed Azure. Let's see if the Azure is done. Yes, the Azure machine is already built. So let's go here and check on the Azure portal. Do a refresh. Okay, so you see here the Azure portal, we have the virtual machine running already, and the Google is also built. Yes, so we have the machine in Google. So all three hyperscalers in the live demo, which is a pretty simple one, whatever I'm showing, it just created it. So I just wanted to make sure the all the three major cloud providers, public cloud providers are covered. And our vCenter one is going on because there are some customization specs and other things which I have included. So it's kind of taking a little time to do it. Usually it takes around 7 to 9 minutes to complete, but we can check that if it is in progress. So if you see here, Cloud vSphere machine, it is getting built. So if I click on the machine, there are things which is getting built for that machine. So the demo was basically to show you uh, how the virtual machines are getting provisioned. These are a basic thing. Okay, I really need to give this disclaimer because this is not all about vRealize automation. Whatever I am showing it to you today, it is kind of 10% of what VRA can do at its best. There are like multiple things. There are so complex stuff which VRA can do. This is just to get a feel of the product is what we are doing, because there are some projects which I worked on. There is a blueprint. Once it gets provisioned, it creates on-demand load balancer. It does the NAT of networking. It talks to Ansible. It talks to the backup agent, the monitoring software, and it updates the CMDB. So there's so many things it does. So whatever you're seeing here is just to get a feel of VRA. This is not all VRA. It's just a 10% of VRA. You still have 90% more to cover. So think like the depth of the product is pretty much high. So it depends on, use cases wise. It's a wrong assumption by customers. Sometimes they feel like I bought VRA in my environment, and from tomorrow, all my IT stuff, all my provisioning will get automated. No, it's not like that. So there is a process. It's a step-by-step approach. First, we need to identify the things which has to be automated, and what are the third-party products which has to be integrated, and what are the clouds we have to add, and how do we add them, which region a particular business group has to provision. So there's so many things which we have to work. So this is kind of an evolving product. You deploy it today, down the line in a month or two, you will have like 50% of automation approach. And then once you start slowly integrated other solutions and the other third party options, what you have on premise, once you start building them and adding them to VRA, end of like a 6-month journey or something, your entire IT infrastructure will be automated. Okay,
Ravi,
so yeah.
I think there's a request from one of the attendees request you to show where to populate the cloud account credentials, example, the passwords and
Yes.
usernames.
Yes. So that was the next session. Thanks, Matt. So I'll just show that. Yeah. So I just wanted to cover this blueprint part, which we already done, and let's go with infrastructure. So this is the answer for the request which came in. You have to log in to Cloud Assembly, because Cloud Assembly is the place where you add your endpoints. So when you click on add account, these are the accounts which you can consume. And I'm running on VRA 8.0. It's not the latest and greatest version. It's slightly one version down. 8.1 has integration to your vCloud Foundation and other things. So if you want to add Google, which I've already added, right? You just click on this, and you need to provide the project ID, private key, and you also have an option to import JSON file. Like I have done this yesterday when I was trying to add this account. From Google, you get an option to export a JSON file, which has all this information. You just import it, auto fills everything, and just give a name to this endpoint, and it'll be added like this. So this is my Google account, which I already added. So you can see here all the stuff. Yeah, it's a free account, so there's nothing to hide here. Okay, the next thing is if you want to add Azure, right? So this is the place. So for the integration cloud accounts, come here, cloud accounts in the connection. Here is what you add. So if you want to add vCenter, it's pretty simple. Just provide vCenter IP address, username, password, and you'll be able to add it. Same with other cloud providers. Say Azure has some subscription ID, client ID, tenant ID. Just provide those things, it'll be done. AWS also have the secret key, secret access ID. So these things. This is the place, and you have an option to select the regions, whatever you are entitled for. Now, so once the cloud accounts is added, right? It's not like you add an account and you already started publishing the blueprints and user can consume it. We have to slice the cloud account. So that is called cloud zones, which means AWS is a big account. You have multiple regions, but you need to specify this project belongs to this region and they are entitled to just provision on this particular region. So we create cloud zones. So cloud zones are nothing but in previous versions of VRA, it's kind of reservations what we used to create. So one particular business group was entitled to just provision in that particular reservation. Similarly, in VRA 8, we just renamed that reservation to cloud zones. So my cloud account is only entitled to provision in AP Southeast -1. So Asia Pacific Southeast 1. So this is the entitlement I've given to my project, which is here. Project is nothing but it's a logical grouping of your official business groups. So how you group, you have multiple departments in an organization like HR, transport, and other departments, right? So department wise, if you want to split your organization, that's how you do it. So that's the project. So project is a logical differentiation. In project, you can have multiple cloud zones and you can have multiple blueprints and deployments, everything. Now the image mapping and image, flavor. So here is where you do the image mapping or image flavor mapping. So I create a new one, say like VMUG, select my AWS, and here you get the different sizes of AWS machine. So you kind of create a flavor which what type of machine it should use. So I just pick something here and I create. So I created a flavor. Now I have to map an image, right? So I go here. So this is nothing but your template. So what template you have to map it to. So you have this AMI, what we call in AWS term, you pick that and then give it a name. So you kind of create an image and you kind of create an flavor as well. And when you create a blueprint, we can make use of that. So when you go back to your blueprint and create a new blueprint, yeah, it might seem little tricky, but it's very simple because I'm used to it. I'm doing it. You just need to subscribe for the 45 days trial SaaS version. You'll get an option to explore all these things. So I drag and drop an AWS machine. And when I click on this, I get an option to choose which, flavor I need to use and which, okay. I'm having issue. Usually when you click, it'll populate the image which we created and the flavor what we created. So that's how simple it is to do this. Now, what else to cover here? So the tag is something which is kind of mandatory for most of the things nowadays. Any product you have this tag based approach. So you can also make use of tags here, wherein you specify some tag, and based on the tag, it goes. The workloads are also placed to different cloud. So if you create a blueprint and that's a cloud agnostic blueprint, but you add a tag to it stating AWS. So it reads the tag, okay, this is AWS and I have to place it in AWS machines. So tag based policies can also be created. Now the other thing is extensibility. Okay, so folks who already used VRA, they know like, VRA, we only had vRealize orchestrator previously, which is completely a Java based approach. So a lot of customers were facing challenge. They don't have a developer to develop workflows and, create some extensibility in VRA. So VMware has taken all the feedback and they have come with ABX, which is your different kind of extensibility which you can use. This one is Python oriented. So if you see here, I have Python Node.js option here. In the newer version, you also have PowerShell option because I don't have 8.1. So it is kind of developer friendly. Python is a famous tool with a lot of admins, and if they want to develop something using that, they can do it. And PowerShell, that's also something which Windows guys love. So we have an option to build extensibility using PowerShell, which is not in this, but in the 8.1 release, we have that. So what we do here in this extensibility place, so you created a workflow in VRO, and if you want to make use of that, this is the place where we do it. So say for example, I go to subscription and I create a new subscription, right? I just name it something and I add a topic. So as soon as like, okay, so deployment requested. As soon as a user requests for a deployment, what has to be done? So I can add a runtime action. So if I have a VRO workflow or an action-based extensibility created, I can choose. So as soon as machine VM is created, if VM is requested, if I run this workflow, add CD-ROM, it will go ahead and add a CD-ROM to that particular VM. So they're like, it's a basic dumb example, but these are the things which you can do. You can write your own workflows, and based on specific events of virtual machine creation, you can pick that and trigger that workflow. So that's how you link your blueprint to vRealize orchestrator workflows or your action-based extensibility, which is Python and Node.js, now PowerShell enabled. So this particular tab is only for extensibility. And Marketplace is a place where you have your pre-built blueprints available, images which you can download and consume. These are VMware validated things. So you can, you can consume this from the Marketplace. You need internet access and you need to add your VMware account as well. So that's when it'll fetch all the pre-built blueprints from VRA for you to consume. Okay, so I am in Cloud Assembly in deployments. Previously, there was nothing. Right now, I have all these 4 things running because I'm a admin. I have access to see who are the users and what have they provisioned. I can also filter it out. Like I want to see like only my Azure cloud, how much it is consumed. So you can just click on this. It will show me that. So if I want to do a filter by user, so I just click the user, how many VMs this user has deployed, I can do that. Okay, so this is about Cloud Assembly. And now if we need to switch to Service Broker, I already showed you. This is how the Service Broker looks like for an end user. So for an admin, how the Service Broker looks like. So when I go to Service Broker, for an admin, you get these options. In the newer version, you also get approvals tab 8.1. So here, what basically we do is whatever blueprints was created in the Cloud Assembly, we can import it here. So this is how I got that. There are like 4 blueprints which I created. I came here and I started, pulling the content from those things. And okay, so the other thing, main thing what I forgot to tell is here you can change your icons. These icons, what you see here is not out of box. We can go ahead and do the icon change. You can go and change whatever icons you need. And also custom forms. This is like when the user requests from here, you kind of see this plain form, right? You can make it more interesting. You can add your own stuff to the forms. So you can add a tab telling this tab, there should be a general information. In this tab, there should be how many hard drive they need. And if they want to choose a different AWS region, you can do a drop down. So all those customizations can be done here. So I've kept it basic, but usually there are a lot of things which you can do. If you want to put a text, you just drag and drop here. So you have options like this. You can create your own things. This is more like, when end user request, if they want a fancy form, you can do that. And these are the policies. So as I mentioned, right, we have this approval lease policy. In the new version, we have approval tab here. You can create the approval, who has to approve what request and how many days the lease has to be there. What are the day two actions which can be enabled for an user. So for a EC2 instance, if I give star, which means any day two operation like power off, add disk, delete VM will be added. But if I restrict the EC2 instance by just clicking this option and publish it to my project, any VM provision from AWS, they only have a day two operation of add disk, which means the user don't have control to power off or do anything. They only can add disk. So you can restrict the day two parts here. So that is pretty much an admin view of Service Broker. Now, code stream, yeah, I don't have an a pipeline or anything created, but so you see, right, when you have this guided setup diagram, this is what you do. First thing is you kind of add your endpoints, which is like your Git repository, your Kubernetes node, and you kind of create pipeline, then run the pipeline, manage execution, dashboard, and monitor. So if I have to add an endpoint, if I click here, these are some of the endpoints which I can add. So for DevOps engineer, they may be familiar with all these things. So your Git is the source code repository where you can do a check-in and check-out, and your Jenkins you can use. So these are something which first you need to add your endpoints. So there's a guided setup, which means add endpoint, create pipeline, execute, view, dashboard. So even for creating a pipeline, right? If I go back to the dashboard pipelines, when I create a new pipeline, there is two options. One is blank, where you need to do from scratch the complete CI/CD process. If not, there is a smart template. And if you're just interested in continuous integration, just click on this. And here you can add your Git repository. I don't have anything added here. And if for your build framework, if you have Maven endpoint added, you can use that, and you can enable the process of checking that code. So JUnit test or check style. These things, the code should be in a position to do all this testing, and you can publish that to a Docker, report. So I'm not kind of very familiar with this, but DevOps guys will know it, how to do this. And, last thing is your orchestrator. So previously we had the a Java client to access VRO. Right now we have completely an HTML5 based. So here's the place where you kind of create your own workflows. So if I click on a new workflow, and if you're a developer, you want to declare some variables, like take input from users. So basically you'll be interested in this place. The schema is the place where you you want to do a scriptable task, you pull and drop here, then start typing your code here. So you have to add your endpoints. Basically, if you want a complete script-based workflow, no need to add any endpoints. But if you have a third-party product, you need to talk to, right? We add them as an endpoint to VRO, just like how we add this public cloud and everything. So we have some workflows to do that out of box workflows. So REST host. So see, you have here an option called add a REST host, which means any third-party application which is exposing its public API, right? We can add that here and consume it in VRO to build your own workflows. There are like a lot of out-of-box, workflows which VMware already gives it. So if you want to remove a database, if you want to add an AD, so there are like so many workflows. If you go down, the list goes on and on. So there are like hundreds of already built workflows which you can consume. If not, you can build your own workflows, engaging your developers to do it. So inventory is nothing but it'll right now I've added my vCenter as an endpoint here. So if I want to explore the inventory, I can do that. I can pick any item here and write a workflow. So similarly, if you have added your AD, you can explore these. Right, I don't have any other endpoint apart from vCenter, so nothing is there to explore. What basically third-party vendors do, right? Like Blue Medora is one of the major, plugin providers and the management pack, content pack. They also develop plugins to integrate some of the solutions. So there are other providers like HP ILO. If you want to manage some part of the servers, you have HP ILO, Dell iTrack. So these kind of plugins, you have to check if it is available online. If it is available, check the compatible version because few are very outdated. And if they are compatible to run with VRO 8.x, you just need to download that and import the plugin here, and you can manage that particular endpoint. So that is plugin based approach. The other one is REST API based approach. Right. So pretty much I think I covered whatever basic stuff I wanted to show. I want to stress on the word basic because we just discussed basic. So whoever didn't know VRA, this is a startup for that. There are like a lot of other things which it can do. So with that, I am kind of done with this session. Let's see if there is any questions.
Yeah, Ravi, there's some questions that maybe you can answer live. So I think Venkat had a question on whether VRA is only purely for VM provisioning. Can you do other management works using VRA? Example, peering.
Okay. Example, I'm sorry.
Example, VPC peering, etc. Like management works.
Okay. So so VPC peering is something which is done at the cloud level, right? So that option right now we don't have that option, but yeah, there are some out-of-box services which the public cloud providers provide, which is integrated with VRA. Right now we can leverage only those things, like I showed you the S3 option, right? So those things we can consume. But VPC peering, that use case, I haven't got a chance to work on it. I'm not sure if it can be achieved. But as I said, right, if the cloud provider gives the API to do it, we can definitely create an XAS blueprint to achieve that. So we need to check on that. So VRA is highly customizable. So if we have an API to do that, right, we can do that from VRA. So all we need is the public APIs available to do the VPC peering. Once that is exposed, we can create an XAS blueprint to do that.
Thanks, Ravi. I think another question is how often items are cleaned up? What's the process like in VRA 8.1?
Items are cleaned up in this sense. I believe they wanted to know the life cycle of something which is provisioned, right? So is that something for info? Let's see, which question exactly?
It's from Ong.
Oh, okay. Okay, so let me take it like this way. So how often the infra is cleaned up in the sense, when you create a VM and if you want to do the cleanup automatically, you need to specify some kind of leasing on the item. So that's when it does the cleanup automatically. If not, it's up to the user. They can run the virtual machine or any item which they provision from VRA as long as they need.
I think so. Sridhar raised their hand.
Okay, so there is one more question. Okay, I'm just going from the bottom up. There's one from Nilesh. He was checking for VRA, where can we get documentation module wise? So module wise, we have one documentation like VRA installation guide or setup guide that doesn't kind of break it up with a complete module like how I explained, but you have like few pages which talks about each thing. So it's my advice would be to start working on the free SaaS version so that you get your hands dirty on it, and then refer to the documentation. It'll be more easy.
Okay, I'm unmuting Sridhar, Pipari. Yeah, I think there was a raised hand from you.
Okay.
Is there a question?
Sorry, it happened accidentally.
Accidentally. Okay, okay. Okay, no problem.
Okay. Okay, there's one open question from Naveen. What are the servers VMs need for a complete VRA infra? Like how many servers needed? Okay, so I can show it to you in live. So that is, if you see, this is my vRealize automation. It's just a single appliance because this is a lab demo, right? I've just used one instance. And as I said, VRA from 8.x, it's not a separate item to deploy. You need lifecycle manager, this one here, and then VRA appliance, and then VIDM. So these three together forms your vRealize automation. So the footprint, if you want to know VIDM, we have the spec, custom spec or the configuration specification guide. We can check based on that. You can see here, or if you want me to edit settings,
I sent them the I put in the
Okay.
answers, the docs
Okay,
for
sure.
the reference architecture. So it contains that information.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I think I'll just send it to all attendees again.
Okay.
Yeah. So please review the chat window for the reference architecture. And then one more from Fu Kyong. VRA allows the creation of Kubernetes cluster, and he's about to test Kubernetes on Azure. Do you know how similar is VRA Kubernetes is to Azure's? And also, can we deploy our VRA Kubernetes cluster to Azure?
Okay, so VRA Kubernetes is not specific to VRA. So this is, we are making use of the PKS and the VMware Tanzu vSphere 7. So we are just adding these two as endpoint, and from VRA, we are just, consuming that. So, or managing that. VRA by itself, it doesn't have an Kubernetes node. And to answer the question about Azure Kubernetes, I'll probably check on that from VRA if we are able to deploy the Kubernetes cluster on Azure. I'll get back to you on email or something on that.
I think we don't have any more questions.
Okay.
Yeah. So Matthew,
All
are
right.
you wrapping up or?
Okay, so yeah, I'll just bring up the last few slides, what we have here. So as I mentioned, we have 45 days trial version, which you can try. This is the SaaS offering from, vRealize Automation. So you just need to sign up here. Please, scan this QR code to participate in the lucky draw and also to get the sign up option for the free trial. And if I'll put this particular link on chat as well, so people who are not able to scan it. Okay, it's already put by Matthew here. Okay. And if you have any questions or if you want a personalized session, you can always contact us in this email address. The lucky draw winner will be announced via email, but whoever attended the session, scan the code and fill in the form. All right. So apart from that, I think I am good. And you can always drop in the questions and we'll be more than happy to assist. Yeah. All right. So Sheldon, anything